All right, guys. Let's see here. All right, guys. Welcome to Champions Fishing Live. My name is Joshua David. I am your host. I am excited that we're going to begin to do some live streams. We haven't been able to do that yet, but we finally got set up to do that, and so we are for sure excited about it. And I want to say thank you guys for getting on here. I'm going to be actually talking today. Uh, this Let's see here. Kayak. Let me give this a good title here for a second here, and then we'll get started. All right, there we go. Okay, so in this video today, let me talk about a little bit first about why this video has come about. This video was brought about because of a request. I've had several people on Facebook that would message me about me talking about different types of tackle, things like that, because I really love to get into those sort of things and talk about the things that I use and why I use them. Now, not everybody uses the same setup. Not everybody uses what I'll use. Everybody has their techniques and things like that that they're going to use for their specific fishing needs. So I'm going to talk about what I use and why I use it. I believe that I have been a river angler my entire life, pretty much. I started fishing when I was about 7 or 5 years old when I first started fishing, but I fished mostly rivers growing up. Now, growing up, I used spin cast quite a bit. I used spinning reels, and I still use spinning reels occasionally. But the more that I used bait casters and pair them with different rods, the more I like using them because I can get a better cast, a more accurate cast with a bait caster than, say, a spinning rod. I don't know why that is, but when I first started using spinning rods, I was terrible at it. Yeah, I dip, so you might see me spit on here if you think that's gross or whatever. Whatever. Everybody has their little things that they do. So, but I started off using spin cast reels, and that's what I grew up with. Then I switched over to bait casters, and I had a terrible time getting bait casters set up properly. Now, anybody I think that's switching from a bait caster to a spinning reel to a bait caster, you're going to experience some difficulties there in the very beginning, just like I did. And so if you use spin cast now, then that's what you're comfortable with. Then I would encourage you to continue using spin cast because that will help you out, as you fish on the rivers or wherever you fish. But then once you can become comfortable with maybe switching to a bait caster, then I would encourage you to give it a shot because it has really changed my fishing up tremendously once I switched over to bait casters, and I even use bait casters for the river. And so we're going to be talking about my setup that I'm going to have with me pretty much every single time that I go to the river, and I'm going to talk to you about why I do that. So without wasting much more time, I'm going to just start going through some of the things. I've got my rods set up back here. I've got 6 rods that are set up right here, and then I've got a spin cast rod back there that I didn't put in this list right now because, well, I didn't necessarily um, want to, So I'm going to share this out really quick to my social media page, and hopefully that will allow us to, let's see, share. Let's grab that link real quick, and let me go over here to my Facebook page real quick and to Joshua David Fishing. You can just look me up, Joshua David Fishing, on Facebook, and you'll be able to catch this live stream over there as well. So let me post that real quick. All right. So we got that out of over there on our Facebook page. So maybe we'll get some people in here. If not, then you'll catch the replay when it becomes available to you. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get right into this. I'm not going to make a very long video. I don't like doing long videos. I just think it's better to keep things simple and things straightforward. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics of baits. I'm going to just talk about each bait that I'll probably have with me. And of course, that will vary on any different given occasion because you know things change. You have water temperature that you have to deal with. You have is the water muddy? Is the water cloudy? You know, is it slightly stained? Is there cloud cover? You know, things like that are all aspects of fishing. And so, because of that, we want to just talk about, again, like I said, some of the things that I'm going to have with me and why I might have those with me. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to grab a rod here. This first rod that I'm going to grab is one that's my Texas rig rod. This is an Arc Cobb series. You can buy these for about $100. They're very good rods. Personally, I've been a St. Croix person my whole life, pretty much. Family uses it. It's just kind of been a family thing to have a St. Croix rod. But I just recently switched to the Cobb series from Arc Fishing, thanks to my friends up at Just Fishing Store in Bristol, Virginia. These are some really good rods. So on this rod, I've got it paired with a Tatula. This is the 7.3 Tatula 150 HSL. Okay. And this rod here is going to be my Texas rig rod. I've got on there some tungsten from Venom Lures, company that I'm pro staff with. And then I've got it paired up with a Big League Baits bed wrecker. And of course, now when I go out, depending on the color, depending on the cloud conditions, things like that, may or may determine whether or not I change this bait to a different color or not. But I'm going to probably, more than likely, always have a Texas rig with me because even though I fish rivers differently than most people, sometimes I like to get up close to the bank and I'll throw a Texas rig presentation. Now, it may not always be a bed wrecker. I'll probably have on either a crawfish, particularly in the rivers. I'm probably going to more than likely throw a crawfish of some sorts on here and utilize that bait when I'm up next to the banks pretty good. So that'll be one of my setups is I'll have a Texas rig on there. I'm always going to throw a Texas rig at some point during the duration of my time on the water. I'm probably going to throw a Texas rig. A lot of people don't like it, but I absolutely love it. I've learned how to utilize a Texas rig. It's a very simple presentation, and it will help you catch fish. It'll help you put fish in a boat. I am a firm believer in the Texas rig. Okay. Next up on my list of what I'm going to have with me when I'm on the river is, well, I've got them all tangled up here. Let me fix that real quick. There we go. Is another rod that is um, hold on a minute. Don't you just love how things don't go as you planned, right? But that's just part of life. That's just part of doing a video. Not everything's as planned. So this rod here is another Cobb series rod, but this one's slightly different than the first one I showed you. This is the kitchen sink. It's a 7-foot fast action, medium heavy. This rod is my jig rod, okay? And so I'm always going to have a jig with me. Again, if there's structure, if there's laydowns, if there's brush, there's trees or whatever, I'm going to try to put this jig up in there, and I've got it paired up with a crawfish as well. And this is a Daiwa Tatula 7.3 CT. The big difference between the two reels, the first reel that I showed you and this reel, is the wider spool base there. You can see this one is a little bit smaller, but overall these both are really good reels. This first rod, again, this is the Cobb series, but it's the little skipper. Okay, this rod is the kitchen sink rod, and so it's a little thicker here at the bottom, and the action on this rod is very good, but it really helps when you're throwing a jig if you have a rod that's going to be set up for that. And so that's why I use the kitchen sink. And again, it's got the Daiwa Tatula. Now, all the line that I use on my reels is going to either be 8-pound fluorocarbon or it's going to be 10-pound mono or 8-pound mono. I do not use any kind of braided line whatsoever. A lot of people pick on me for that, but I've never been a fan of braid. I don't like it. It will eat up the eyes on your rods very quickly if you have them on there. So I don't use them that much. So third thing that I'm going to have on there, depending on the time of year, is something top water. So like for this example, I've got a top water, a whopper plopper on here is what this is called. Now this is on a St. Croix Premier. It is a 6'6" rod, so it's a small rod, and I've got it paired up with a Ronsel Merced. Okay, now this is a very inexpensive reel, especially compared to the other two reels that I've already showed you. This reel's like $40 on Amazon, but this thing is a caster. It will cast a country mile, no problems. And I've had no issues out of it, just to be frank. But I like this small rod if I'm casting a whopper plopper, or I might put maybe even I might not put a spinner bait on it, but I might put a buzz bait on that. And sometimes in the rivers, if you throw a buzz bait, that'll really help you pick up on those smallmouth. And so this is definitely going to be an option for me as well. My next setup I have, this is a St. Croix. This is a 7-1. It is a fast action, medium heavy as well. Now this rod is it's a plastics rod on this, what this one here is set up for. But I'm going to have always some type of swim bait with me as well, whether it be from 6 Cents or Big League or Venom or whoever, Z-Man. I'm going to have some type of swim bait with me when I'm in the river, something that imitates a moving fish, a bait fish. And I've got this one paired up with the Mock Crush from Lou's. Again, picked that up at Just Fishing as well. So that's going to be another thing in my arsenal. Texas rig, a jig, some type of top water, and then definitely a swim bait so I can get down there. And sometimes what I like to do with this is I like to just let this thing go downstream with the current. I've got a 1/8 ounce jig head on here, or a Kayak head, and I just screw that into that swim bait, and then I'll throw this out and I'll just slowly retrieve it back. And sometimes we'll get a great hookup on smallmouth with those. Matter of fact, one of our earlier videos that we did in a previous channel, the old channel that we had, we smashed the smallmouth on nothing but swim baits, and of course using a bait caster, and just throwing it kind of if the kayak is sort of parallel there with the river, we just throw out about a 45, let the current take that downstream, and we burn them up. We probably caught, between myself and my brother-in-law, we caught over 60 smallmouth, and I'm talking big smallmouth, not your small ones. I'm talking 15 inches and above, using a swim bait. And so I'm always going to have a swim bait in my arsenal as well. Next up, we've got another Arc Cobb Series rod. Now this one here is the Century. It's a 6'11", and again, it's a regular action rod, medium power. This is my jerkbait rod, and this is also a rod that can be used for a Ned rig. Works really good for a Ned rig. I have a certain technique that I use with the Ned rig, and I fish differently with the Ned rig than I do other things, especially like the Texas rig or the jig. I actually will turn out and throw toward the middle of the river, and that netted me a third place finish. You can see that plaque back up there in the Holston River Showdown that we had with Northeast Tennessee kayak anglers. So um, didn't get me a win, but it's all about timing and location of where you are with those fish in that particular day. And so probably could have put more fish in the boat. Matter of fact, I had about 7 or 8 big ones get off right up at the front of the boat. Um, and that was an unfortunate, but I just didn't set the hook on them right. So it's not anybody's fault but my own. I should have been paying more attention to that. But I'm going to have a Ned rig with me anytime that I go to the river, because if you fish in the river and you don't have a Ned rig with you, you are missing out on many opportunities. So I'm going to have a Ned rig. This is the reel that I have with this is the Lew's Custom XP speed spool, and again I've got it 8-pound mono on there. I do have a little bit of backing on this. There's some 10-pound fluorocarbon on here as well. It's not really, the 8 pounds not really a leader. It's just on there because I only need so much line for a Ned rig. I don't need to cast a country mile with a Ned rig. I just need to put it in the right spot and work it with my technique, and usually that will yield me some fish. All right, last but certainly not least on my list is I will have some sort of crank with me. Now, it's not going to be this crank because typically around where I fish, the rivers are shallow. And so I will have either a 2 to 4 foot, 2 to 5 foot diver if I'm casting into some of those deeper pools off those eddy lines. I'm going to probably have a crank with me just to throw it and see what I can catch. This is a Berkeley, I think, Fritz side 7, so it's going to be deeper than what I would typically throw. This is more something I would throw in a lake. You may get in some of those 12-foot spots that you can throw something like this, and it would work pretty good. This is on a Runsville S-Valet 731. I like this reel pretty good. It's a solid little reel. Again, it's a $42 reel for this one here. And I've got it paired up with a St. Croix Mojo bass. This rod is a 7-foot medium heavy power. And I do have 10-pound mono on this one. I usually run 10-pound for the cranks, but I like mono because it gives me that stretch that I like. A lot of people don't like it, but I do like it. I do like the stretch. It helps me out. And of course, I always tie a Palomar knot on everything, unless I'm crappie fishing or I'm running a different setup. I might tie a double loop knot for that. But most of the time, it's going to be a Palomar knot that I'm going to have with me. So this is my river setup. This is pretty much what I'm going to have with me. Now, a lot of times this actually transfers over to the lake as well, because most of these things I can fish in the lake. And so all 7 of these rods are set up, or 6 of these rods are set up specifically for the bait that I'll throw on them. And I've narrowed it down to be able to only have 6 rods with me, and I can pretty much cover any application of anything that I will throw on the river. And so, guys, if you have any questions or you want to leave a comment, I would appreciate a comment. I love to interact with the viewers here on our YouTube channel. Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe if you find this content valuable. I'm just an a young East Tennessee boy that loves to fish, and I love also to help people. Around here at Champions Fishing, we've got a motto: stay safe, stay strong. Remember always, you are a champion, and most importantly, be one. Be one in every aspect of your life. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off today, and we will see you